Okay. Welcome to another episode of the Herman Stewart Mentoring Show, where I speak to experts and I speak to leaders around their work, where they're working with young people, experts with parents, or doing all different kinds of things to enrich the community, enrich the lives of the younger generation, as well as enhancing the practice of practitioners as well. Today, really excited to speak to my next guest, and I believe we're going to have a really interesting conversation today. It's Sandra Trew. She's a parental coach expert. She's youth mentor. She's got 30 years experience in the child care industry. She's co-founder of Flourishing Fulfilled Futures CIC. She has interviewed so many parents and got a lot of insight concerning how to get the best out of children and how to get the best out of parenting as well. And we all need more support when it comes to being parents, because as they say, you don't get a book, you don't get a manual with it. But I just want to really introduce Sandra today. How are you today, Sandra?
I'm good, Herman. Thank you for inviting me, actually. I've been after you for ages, so here we are.
No, and it's really good. And I've just been having so much interesting conversations on the mental show. I mean, it's live, it's like Saturday Night Live or whatever, this ain't recorded, it's not edited, it's not, so it's just kind of just a real live, informal conversation that can go anywhere, and really it's about giving people the opportunity to see and to hear, the different perspectives of people that are working and giving people advice and encouragement concerning them. So I've already introduced you in the sense of your parenting coaching expert. You've been a podcaster, you've been doing all these different kind of things. You're a co-founder, you're a parent, you're all these different things. But to you, who is Sandra to you?
Oh, yeah. All those hats, isn't it? Sandra is a very diverse person, loves to help people, hence why I've got all these different hats. And at the moment, there isn't one lane for me. If there's somebody else reaching out, I like to reach out if I can give help wherever. So at the moment, yes, I'm doing the parental coaching where I help parents build that stronger relationship with their children. And then I'm doing the mentoring for the young people. My fingers are in all sorts of pies, but at the moment, mentoring is the key for me for the young people, just because they are our next generation, and they need the support wherever they can get it. Yeah, so there isn't enough out there for young people, and that's why we come in as mentors, use our experience, our knowledge to guide them in different areas, to give them that life skill, whether it's they need additional support with CV writing, interview skills, learning how to iron a shirt, cooking skills, all those kind of life skills that you're going to need to make them a full-rounded individual, including finance help as well, helping them how to budget. And that's where the other company comes into it, as in Flourishing Fulfill Futures, where we help people and parents learn how to budget their money once they get it. Because you have to think, Herman, once you reach 18, if you're in a household and you're ready to go off to uni, if that's the route that you choose to take, you're already, because these things cost money. How have you taught the children, if they haven't been taught from the parents, how to budget money? Because once you turn 18, all these things get thrown at you, credit cards, store cards. So you need to learn how to manage yourself.
Finance, yes.
Yeah, so the scope is broad in terms of support the young people and parents to parent.
Yes, and I think that is so key in the sense of parents need a lot of support, and I can see that you work on both sides of the continuum, and I really like to dig into your 30 years of experience around working with children, working with parents, and what gives you that kind of insight. Because really, as a parenting coach, why parenting? What led you to become a parenting coach?
So, good question. So, as a mother myself, I'm a mother of two. My children are grown, but when my son especially was growing up, I struggled. I struggled as a parent,
Yeah.
and what happened was, when I kept saying, like, I think there's something wrong. I think there's something wrong with my child. And as a parental coach now, I hear it a lot. I think there's
Yeah.
something wrong. And you want people to listen. You want the teachers or whoever to listen. And I remember I took him to psychiatrists, psychologists, doctors, counselors, anyone who would listen to say something's not quite right. Unfortunately, we didn't get any kind of diagnosis at the time. So therefore,
Okay.
going through schooling, I struggled as a parent. I struggled with teenage years. I struggled with him not being able to cope at school. So it was different schools, different schools. And as a working parent, that was even worse. And I was lucky that because I was in the caring industry anyway, I was working in nurseries and schools. They understood that as a mother, I still need to go out and deal with my child. So
Yes.
I'm thinking to myself, well, because I struggled, I can imagine however other parents struggled. It did turn out, we found out 27 years later that
Okay.
he is neurodiverse, and that
Okay.
sort of put the penny dropped as to the different things that we could have done to help him, put in different support systems. Um, so now what happened was me running my childcare business and COVID hit. There was a lot of parents, because I'm in that field, just really struggling. I thought, you know what? I can help. I can show them the way. I can give them guidance, signpost them, and everything. So that's when I became a parental coach and used the experience that I had from a mother's perspective, from working in a nursery, working as a nanny, working as a nursery manager, running my own business, all that collated together, and my own personal experience as a parental coach. I realized that I was quite good at what I did. So let me pursue more, created a program, had sessions and everything, and then I can work with parents on a Facebook community group, on a one-to-one group, so I can then guide them as to how they can manage their children. So that is how I really got into the parental coaching.
Yes.
And I realized that it is something I absolutely love, till I ended up giving up my childcare business in order to pursue this, because I wanted more. I didn't have enough time. Time is of the
Yes.
essence for everyone. So I realize now when I'm doing my coaching on a one-to-one, there's so many things that's coming out of that then enables me to help another family, another family, another family. So by the time the 6 week program is finished, they're feeling empowered, they're
Yes.
motivated, they understand that they're not bad parents at all. They just need tweaking, just a certain thing to get that relationship with the children, because it's difficult. We cannot bring the children up in today's society how we were brought up, because there's
Okay.
different times. You can bring a few of your family values with you, mannerism that you expect, and it's you got to give respect, you got to earn respect. So it works both ways. Whereas there's a lot of old school ways coming into bringing our child up today that is not working. It really isn't working. So we just
Yeah.
sometimes have to learn to relax a little bit, have a bit more conversation, and do a lot more listening than talking.
I think it's really good the way that you just gave so many different examples in a sense of the tapestry that helped you to become a parental coach and being able to be someone that can add value to other parents. And for me, I think it's very important because sometimes you've got people that are parenting experts or they're writing parenting books and they don't have any children. And I
Yes,
think the reality of it is yeah, you can speak theoretically, you can, you can read books and do your research, and you can get the statistics and data and everything, and you can share it in a unbiased way, so to speak, as a presenter. But I believe the credibility of being able to be someone that encourages others to be parents or good parents is that you're actually a parent, and some of your learning is the hindsight that you've got from parenting, whether good or bad. I mean, just thinking about some of your experience, what were some of the things that you struggled with as a parent that in hindsight now you're helping parents to be good at that aspect, because now you've got the hindsight and now your hindsight is becoming wisdom for them?
Yeah, 100%. So I struggled with connecting with my children.
Mm,
You know, I
mm,
I I was brought up on the basis that I'm the parent, I'm in charge, I'm in control, you do what I
mm,
say. And
mm,
and that was that. So
yes.
I realized as my children got older that that wasn't working. I
Mm,
literally woke up one day and said, you know what, I can't do this shouting anymore. They're not even listening anyway. I'm just not
okay.
doing it
Yeah.
anymore. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna say it once, I'm gonna say it twice, and then implement consequences. That's it. I'm gonna say
Mm,
it twice, just in case you didn't hear me the first time. Yeah.
okay.
And when I put that into practice, I thought, it's working. It really is working.
Mm, yeah.
So so that I knew worked. And
Yeah.
I struggled with that for a long time. The whole shouting,
Mm,
and it's just busy. Everything was busy. The house was busy. I'm shouting. They're not listening until
mm,
I understood how to connect with my children.
yes.
Stop shouting. How to connect. Then they listened more. We engaged more. There was more conversations, and it was the household was just mellow most of the time. Most of
Mm,
the time,
yes.
you know.
Yes.
So now I can say to other parents, shouting doesn't do anything. It just creates
Mm,
more drama within the household.
mm,
And what I try and
mm,
do is I always give them my own personal experience and my and what I went through, so we can relate. They can resonate with, oh my goodness, yeah, that's what's happening. Okay, so what I did, what works, what I've done with other parents that works. So try this. And then they, oh my goodness, that's working. I'm not shouting anymore. That we're now having, so what one thing would work for one parent may not necessarily work for another, but it will just take a little
yeah.
bit longer, So
Mm,
you do have to sort of come at it at, okay, this is your family, what's your problem? But generally parenting do tend to have the same kind of problems. That's what I've
okay.
had over the years, is struggling to relate. Because what happens
Mm,
in child development, as you well know, Herman, that children change because they're going into the next phase of their life. And if
yeah.
you're still here, talking to them here, and they're already, well, I'm not doing that anymore. This is where I am here. And you're still here, there's a problem. So
Mm,
unless you kind of can keep up with their changes and adjust and be flexible to their changes, that's
yes.
when, again, problems are going to happen.
Mm,
Is it?
yeah. Yeah. No, that makes a lot of sense. And it reminds me of a game that I used to play with, with children and with their parents, like Mr. and Mrs. And, getting the parents and the children to guess what the parents liked, or what their parents, what the parents like, what the children like, what's their favorite color, what's their, just doing different things in that way. And then what would happen is sometimes, what it's just like what you said, like sometimes the parent would write what the child used to like, but then the child is changed, like even like their favorite, what's their favorite food, or what's their favorite program, or what's their favorite um whatever it is, but they remember the last one, and if
Yeah,
you're not up to date, if you're not current, if you're not building that relationship, which can be difficult as a parent a lot of times, when we think about the challenges that parents have, because of work, because of the cost of living, because of the busyness of, you know, their career and so forth. Sometimes it's just the duties that everyone's doing, and they're not getting to build that kind of quality time. So
Absolutely.
So I mean, there's something I wanted to talk about as well, because I was reading some of your posts, and there was one, and you says it's not your fault, it's not my fault, it's not their fault.
It's not their
Tell me,
fault.
yeah, tell me a bit more about that. Could you expand on that?
Yeah. So sometimes and you know, this can only be my personal opinion, that I think that sometimes the way we think and the things that we do are not necessarily, it's not necessarily down to us. So, for
Okay.
example, and that's when I said, your parenting is your parenting is your parenting. So,
Yes.
if
Yes.
you've had if you've had, I don't know, I would say a negative um, upbringing,
Yes.
you may not know any different. So then you've
Mm,
got children now, so you're doing
mm,
all this negative parenting, but you don't know
yes.
any different. So
Mm,
if that goes on from generation to generation to generation, how
yes.
can you know that you're not doing something that's not quite right? How do you know you're doing it wrong? Because that's what I
Mm,
saw my mum doing that. I saw my dad doing that. I saw my grandparents do that. They saw their grandparents doing that, and so forth. So at some point, when now that we're in the society that we live in now, with all internet and, you know, social media and everything, there's a lot more resources out there now that can support
mm,
parenting, at least
yes.
help, you know, i.e. parental coach, i.e. there's books you can read, there's podcasts, there's so many things now that you can say, well, hold on a
Mm,
second, and you can stop in your parenting, just stop, have a think about,
mm,
do you feel that it's right? So now people are questioning a lot of things about parenting, whereas they weren't allowed even to question anything before. I couldn't even imagine my parents telling me to do something and I'm saying, why do I need to go and do that? I couldn't even
mm.
imagine asking that question.
Yeah.
Really? I just had to go and do it because they said to go and do it. Whether it was right
Mm,
or wrong, whether we felt it was right or it, we just had to go and do it. But now we're in a society where we need to talk more. We need to ask
mm,
questions. We need to be able to
yes.
understand things. Why do we need to do that? What purpose does it serve? How, you know,
Mm,
we've got to change our parenting to adapt to the children of today. You know,
mm,
questions. So we need to be prepared to give them those answers. And if we don't know the answers, we go and seek the answers to give them. There's
yes.
nothing wrong with information. No, nobody's got all the answers up here. I don't have all the answers. You don't have all the answers. But there's nothing wrong with, you know what, that's a really good question. Let me come back to you on that one. There's nothing wrong.
Mm,
There's nothing wrong with that. And it's about educating yourself, educating the children, so that you both can understand each other and you're listening more.
mm,
So when I says it's not your fault, it's not their fault, I'm talking about the generation from generation of parenting,
yes.
of
Yes.
how that's
Yes.
come down. And now I'm trying to break some of those negative barriers, break some of those
Mm,
cycles by
mm,
creating a scenario where you are listening more, you are taking on board of what the child says because they need to
yes.
speak more, we need to listen more.
Mm, and
So that's where
and
that came from.
yeah, and that's really good, and it's kind of all right then, because that is true. Like the children of today are very different, and because of that, there's a different approach that's required. But how do we also identify when a child is asking questions because of defiance, or when they're asking questions because of curiosity? You know, like what would you say would help for us to understand? Because I recognize, even though as like what you're saying is true in a sense of there's a different approach now, and now it's more, I'd say, probably open. you know, in a sense
Yeah.
of there's an opportunity to have more open questions or more of an open dialogue, I would say. But then there's some things as a parent, when you tell your children, they've just got to trust you. You know, they might not understand it yet. They may not know it. They may not even agree with it yet, but they're not a parent yet. You know, and it's funny because there's times when I'll speak to my children and I will say, you know, in the future, they would have the opportunity to be parents and they could implement things in a different way. But right now, they're not the parent. And it's almost like, how do we keep that? How do we keep that line at the same time as keep that openness for genuine, sincere curiosity?
Again, so we come back to connection. We honestly come back to connection, because if you've got a good relationship with your children, when they're ready to ask questions, you would know whether are they being defiant or are they being curious, because you're used to that dialect back and forth, and they're used to that openness back up, you know, it within your household. Whereas if they're not used to that, if they're used to you get told, you answer, then any curiosity is going to come across as defiancy, isn't it? Because you haven't built a connection with your child, a strong connection enough to know that it's okay. So you would only know that for your household, because you would know how things are between you as a parent and them as a children or young person. So that would be my answer to that. So we want dialect, we want back and forth, because children are asking a lot more questions than they were years ago anyway, because there's a lot more information out there to be questioning. And we want them to ask those questions. We want them to be curious, and we want to give them the factual information as well. So the fact that they're coming to you for the questions, we want to be in that position where to answer them, because there's some questions, say for example, if your teenager came and asked you about puberty or what have you. If you haven't got that connection with the child, you're going to feel like, gosh, we never talk about this. And if you don't answer it correctly, they're going to go and get that information elsewhere. And they could incorrect information, and that, you know, maybe not end so well. So you want to be in a position where you can answer those questions and feel comfortable to answer those questions. Because as parents, I think we're not prepared for things that they ask as well, right? So you're sitting down on the sofa and then when they come out with a question, you'll be like, oh my goodness, you know, where did that come from? Number one, you don't know where they heard it or saw it to ask that kind of question. But as long as you still have that stance where, you know what, depending on age appropriate or even maturity, sometimes it doesn't even depend on age or anything. So it depends on maturity, because sometimes you could say a 6-year-old is quite mature for, you know, or a 6-year-old is immature. So you have to go with the maturity as opposed to the age as well. So you would know whether it's appropriate to answer that question or at that time, or you have to break it down. You have to know how to break it down for that particular question.
Yes, and I think it is spot on in a sense of when you speak about connection and relationship and really ethos as well, ethos and culture. You know, what is the culture of your home? What's the culture of your parenting? And how you help your children to understand how they learn as well. So if there's that kind of environment of learning and development and being conscientious and being reflective in what you do, then it would be welcoming those questions and welcoming those conversations, you know, and being able to push back when you need to push back, in a sense of it's funny because now, you know, children have got Google, you know, and they will go and try and find out things from Google. And it's like, okay, Google probably can tell you that, but Google's not your parents, you know? So it's almost like having those parenting skills and being able to adapt for the generation at hand, which is quite powerful. What you've said, something that's in my mind, because when you said it's not, your fault, not my fault, not their fault, and the reflection on how you were parented, then you parent, and how your parents were parented, and they parent, and how, and you keep going back to different generations. And something that you said, how do what you endured, you never knew that it was called trauma, which is quite powerful, because I mean, now a lot of people talk much more about this word trauma, and a lot of times trauma has just been very normal, so to speak. It's not even called trauma, it's called life,
Yes.
But for you, what would you say, how do you stop the trauma that has come from being parented go into your world of becoming a parent? How do you even identify that that's something that parenting style that I've received, now I'm parenting through that style? How do you even be clear or conscientious or even aware that that's what's happening, so then you can get to a point of saying that I'm not going to parent my child like my parents not going to parent my child through me? And how do you identify that? Do you have any tips, or do you have any examples of how you do that?
Do you know what, Herman? I'm going to be totally honest. When that post came out, it was only maybe, I would say, a few years ago that again you kind of stop in your tracks. What is seen as normal for you, and that's the problem, isn't it? If something seems normal to you, you don't know it. You've endured trauma. You don't know that because it's normal, because you're
Yes.
used to it. You've seen it done before. You've seen it happen in other households. It's normal until someone stops and says to you, "Well, actually, that's not normal."
Yeah.
And you're like, "Really?
Yeah.
Oh." And you stop, and you've got to start questioning yourself. Look at the situation, the environment, look at how you're right, that it's not normal. So I think it's a really tricky one, because until you identify it for yourself, you're not going to know that you've
Yes.
been traumatized, and you're now putting that trauma onto your child. You're not going to know that. You really not going to know that until something happens and you stop your tracks to think about it. Because
Yeah.
even when I'm shouting at my children when they were younger, and then I decided for myself, because I didn't want to get high blood pressure before time anyway, or not
Yeah.
at all.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And that's one of the reasons why, listen, I've got to
Yeah.
just stop things here. And even at that point, even though I made that decision that I'm not going to do it anymore, I still didn't recognize that as trauma. I didn't recognize that as I just knew that I needed to stop doing it. It didn't feel right for me, and my household was in disarray. That is why, from then on, the relationship got better and better because I stopped. But I still didn't know that was trauma.
Yes. Yes.
So, I would imagine there's a lot of parents out there not understanding that they may have been through trauma and inflicting it upon their children. So that's the thing. And then the children are recognizing it as they become adults as well. And then when they recognize it, they think, no, I don't want this for my child. I don't want this for my children. So they can then go and seek help, seek advice, get the counseling or whatever it is that they need, if they need it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, I mean, just say, because as you said, it's a tricky one, because everyone's going to be, it's like coming to that place of awareness. It's come to that place
Yeah,
of being enlightened, where you understand, like, what you went through is, was challenging, and some of that, is because the reality of it is that your parents are children.
yes,
They're children to someone else, and
yes,
if they lacked, I mean, so, like, as a man, like, if they lacked that kind of kindness or compassion from a father, or that kind of relationship of sharing how you feel and being able to tell your son I love you. And if you've lacked that
Yeah.
as a son, that can hinder you from being that for your son or your daughter, because it's like you almost have developed this methodology of parenting based on your parents' limitation.
Yes.
So it's almost like, how do you reinvent yourself, or how do you become open to say what was good, what wasn't good, um especially with the reality that you don't get a book.
Yeah.
You don't get a book, you don't get instructions, man. Sometimes you don't even get like mentored, you know what I mean? Because a lot of
Yeah.
times we get mentored through actually experiencing it, actually seeing it, actually being a child and seeing it um, play out in your house or in your home or in your life. And you see, okay, you're picking up things, because some things are
Yes.
caught rather than taught. But if you're not in that environment, I think that can be a struggle. And even when I speak to a lot of men, um, where there hasn't been a man in the family, or there hasn't been a man in the home, a lot of times they're picking up a lot of the things from their mum, and
Yeah.
that's something that I've experienced, and something that a lot of the children, even that are being mentored, are experiencing. So a lot of them don't know how to become men
Yes.
because they're lacking that real guidance and real instruction that says, this is what you do, this is what you don't do, this is how you do it. So then they're learning that from their friends. They're
Yes.
learning that from just people that just a bit older than them, that they never learned how to be a man as
Yes.
well. So I think it's something that's needed, in a sense of the insight of what's good, what's not good, and also being able to put things in place for our children where that need exists. I really feel that. So, I mean, just from your insight and your awareness and the work that you do, what are some of the common barriers that families experience when it comes to parenting?
A lot of the ones that I hear are the children's challenges, the
Mm,
behaviors. It's more the
mm,
behaviors more than anything else. And
mm.
and the parents are not knowing how to manage those behaviors.
Okay.
So instead of um, addressing the behaviors, they're almost just giving in to the behaviors.
Okay.
So the child is just constantly getting what they want all the time in order for the behaviors to be managed.
Mm,
That is a big one. That is, I
okay.
would say, that's 8 out of 10
Wow.
problems that the
Wow.
parents are having. It always just tends to boil down to not being able to manage their behaviors. So
Mm,
what's also happening is the through the behaviors is it's the violence,
okay.
that
Okay.
is coming from the children to the parents.
Okay. Okay. And you're seeing a lot of that through the work that you're doing.
Yes, yes.
Mm,
So then I'm having to um, go through scenarios, individual scenarios, hear that play out, and I can see how the behaviors are starting and why they're happening. Um,
mm,
so then I try and put something in place for that particular family to
yes.
address the behaviors, put
Mm,
some boundaries and consequences in play.
yes.
That tends to work. But the most important word that I have there, two words really, consistency and
Mm,
communication.
mm,
Two of those working side by side will work.
yes.
It will
Mm,
work no matter what the age group is. And again,
okay.
that goes back to being able to relate to a child. So if we're talking your teenagers, that 12, they're just coming into puberty, 12 to
Mm.
14 age, that tends to be a lot of the trickiest age of what I'm getting through more recently.
Okay.
And that is tricky because you have got to battle with puberty, hormones, testosterone,
Mm.
hitting the roof all over the place, plus internet, plus social media, plus peer pressure, plus anything else that's going on within the household. So if the parents or parent has any of their own issues, and especially if they have any of their own mental health issues, that makes the problem then 10 times worse. And
Mm.
they're not knowing how to manage it very well because they're not managing themselves.
Mm.
So again, it's about, because they always say, even if you use the example of the aeroplane, when you go on the aeroplane, put your mask on first and then
Yes.
the other mask, your child's mask on afterwards. Because if you're not in a good place, you can't help somebody else. So it's
Mm.
being aware of sort of your self-care, your meditation, whatever it is that you like to do, or go and signpost to go and get some additional support in areas.
Mm.
You get what you
Yeah.
need to get in order for you to then be able to parent better or well.
Yeah.
Um,
Okay. That's really good. And I want to just stay on this point here because what you just said was really insightful. And sometimes we feel like being a parent and being able to focus on ourselves and taking care of our own needs can be selfish or self-centered,
yeah,
and I know that that's not true because you can't give what you don't have.
absolutely.
So if you don't have it,
Absolutely.
it's really
Yes.
hard to really give it. So what three things would you say could add a lot of value to parents if they just start implementing it, like for themselves, like their own self-care? How do they fill up their own tank to be able to have the strength and have what is needed to parent healthily?
Yeah. So you need an outlet for yourself. So
Mm.
however that looks like for you, sometimes it could be you just need a girl's night out or a boy's night out. You get that, you're with your people. Because don't forget, sometimes we always forget that we're not just husbands and wives or parents, we're
Yeah.
ourselves. So when you're
Mm.
not with anybody and you're by yourself, that gives you time to reflect,
Mm.
self-care time, and you think about you. What do you want? How do you want to meet your own personal goals? What do you need to do to get that? So any which way it looks like for you, because there isn't a set way, because not
Yes.
everybody likes going to the spa, not everybody likes,
Mm.
so you've got to do what you need to do, and you've got to believe in yourself. You are
Yes.
a person, and have that
Mm.
self affirmation for yourself.
Mm.
Strong, I am beautiful, I am a good person, I am going to try and reverse some of my parenting because I already know that's not working, or I already know, so
Mm.
what am I going to do? Am I going to read a book that on self-parenting? Am I going to do a podcasting, listen to a podcast? You need to do something that makes you feel good. I
Yes.
like to go for my walks in the mornings. I don't care
Mm.
how cold it is outside. A little bit different when
Yes.
it's raining. I don't know why, but when it's raining, it just throws me. But when it's cold, like how it's cold now, I will wrap up and I'm going for my walk, no headphones, no nothing. And I just like the breeze blowing on me. And that's my thoughts of
Mm.
what am I doing? What was my task? What is my goal? How can I help the next person? And that's
Yes.
for half an hour. I come back,
Mm.
I feel fresh, I feel
Yes.
vibrant, I feel like I'm
Yes.
ready to take on the day. Yeah.
Mm.
So definitely we need some self-care uh,
Yes.
going on. And don't feel
Mm.
guilty about it either. You mustn't
Yes.
feel guilty about it. You must feel good about it and know that you
Mm.
deserve it. You deserve that half hour, hour time for yourself a day, if you can squeeze it in. If it means you have to get up that extra hour early to do whatever it is before the kids wake up, so you've got your own time, make that your own time. If it's
Yeah.
last thing in the evening because that suits you better when the kids are gone to bed, make sure that's your time.
Yeah. Now that's really good and really wise thoughts. You said something really interesting in your answer, and you said reverse things that they want to reverse in their parenting, and it kind of leads to one of my final questions, because I mean the time has just gone so quickly.
Oh
We're
my
nearly we're
goodness,
nearly
I didn't
we're
even look at
nearly at
it.
1 o'clock. We're nearly at 1 o'clock. It's been really good. What three things would you say as parents we should avoid as much as possible when it comes to
Okay,
parenting?
you should avoid getting into confrontations when you don't need to. Yeah,
Mm,
that's what I would say. Avoid not get, oh gosh, how can I put it? I wanna three things that you must avoid. Yeah, confrontation, 100% confrontation.
yes.
Um, avoid feeling stressed. Avoid feeling that the children are there to annoy you or to get on your nerves. Avoid feeling
Okay.
like that, because they are
Mm,
your children. Yeah.
yes. Yes.
Avoid feeling like that as much as you can. Try and look at the
Mm,
positives to things. Yeah.
yes.
And the last thing is avoid doing things that you're telling them not to do.
Okay. 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 Can you elaborate on that one? Can you
Yeah.
elaborate on that one?
Yes, yes. So we're always this telling the children, don't spend so much time on your phone. Come off your game. You've been on there too long. But we are on our phones as adults, as
Mm,
parents, a lot
yes.
longer than you think you are. So
Yes.
role
Yes.
modeling is key.
And, and
Yes.
and 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 how can we? What kind of things can we put in place to mitigate that? In a sense of what you're saying is spot on. A lot of times you do need to talk to children to say less screen time, because they're digital natives. Like
Yeah.
that's their normal. Like for us, we're adopters. It wasn't normal for us. It's something that's new in life, but for
Yeah.
them, it's life.
It is.
So, so,
It
so
is.
how do we? What do we do then to make sure that we're role modeling? Is there strategies? Do we
Yeah.
put down our phones at the
100%.
same time, or what do we
So,
do?
so agree things as a family. You could have a family evening where there's no screen time. Nobody has their
Mm,
phones for of an evening, or round the
mm,
table. If you're sitting down having dinner all together, agree that no one's allowed to bring their phones to the table. And there's got to
yes,
be no one that includes you. You've got to be part of that no one. It's not the
yes,
children, it's you as
it's
parents.
everyone.
Yeah.
Yes, yes.
So just put things in place where it includes everybody.
Mm,
And then
okay, no,
all,
that's
yes,
no, that's really good, and that's a really good way to even end the session, in a sense of, as parents, we have to, lead,
yes,
and a lot of times when we're leading, it means that we do first. And I think that that's one of the concepts that has been challenging for a lot of us as leaders, is like we think we can just tell people what to do, or tell them they need to do this, and but the reality of it is we need to role model, we need to do things that show them how to do it, or to show that we're
absolutely.
willing to make the sacrifice, we're willing to pay the price as well. So that's really encouraging. So I just want to say thank you so much for our time today. And if people are interested in your work and want to find out more about you, and doing, getting to engage your services, where would you direct them?
So I've got a website, www.getrealparentalcoaching.com. You can
Mm,
email me at sandra@getrealcoaching.org. Or
mm,
I've actually got an event on tonight about family goal setting, how to set
okay.
goals as a family. It's free. It's for one
Mm,
hour. That's part of my Flourishing Fulfilled Future. So go on Eventbrite and register.
mm, okay.
Have a conversation.
Thank you very much, Sandra. It's been enlightening. It's been great to speak to you, and great to find out about your work. And I hope that people get in touch and find out how to be supported, because your work is valuable. And I want to say thank you so much for your time. I want to say thank you for everyone that's come and, watch the mentoring show. And I hope that you have a great, hope that you've had a lot of great takeaways, and that, come back in the next 2 weeks and we'll have a next guest. Take care, everyone.
Thank you, Herman. Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you for your time.
Great.
All right.